Welcome back to Comic Universe, the only nerd-centric thing you need in your life. DPZ rolling solo again. And yeah, this time around I'm going to be doing a comic review from a comic that was given to us from our good friend on the channel, Mount Vernon Kid. Chris, I know you're watching, so thank you again for this. And the review I'm going to be doing is a Dynamite book by the name of Prophecy. Now, Prophecy came out about 2012 to kind of coincide with the whole Mayan doomsday prophecy that was, not a thing at all. It was, yeah. So, yeah, it was, actually, there's a foreword there's actually a foreword in the trade, that I read this from, and it's kind of funny, because they even said, yeah, we didn't want to do this, but, like, it was just too good of a thing to pass up of doing a 7-part crossover that dealt with this idea, that kind of like, why not? So, yeah. They were kind of like, even we admit this is fucking stupid, but we don't care. So, yeah. This is more or less the Dynamite superhero, the Dynamite quote-unquote heroes trying to stop the Mayan prophecy, essentially. So, yeah. Yeah. So this story is kind of split up into into a few different time periods. The one story centers around Watson and Sherlock Holmes and Watson trying to find this murderer who has shot and killed a man allegedly in a museum, and there's a Aztec dagger missing. And that dagger, we see, was in the possession of Kulan Gath. Now, Kulan Gath, for those who don't know, is the main villain of Red Sonja. He was also an enemy to Conan the Barbarian, but, yeah, that's kind of changed. So, yeah, the main hero of our story is Red Sonja. So, yeah, Sonja is our main protagonist, or she is our eyes going in. And Gath has fled to the Mayan era through a special artifact that Sonja broke in half and used the other half of it to follow after him. And from there, she travels to 2012 to stop Gath from creating an apocalypse. But along the way, she runs into a band of heroes, quote-unquote heroes, I should say, who are out to stop her. And those heroes are Dracula, Vampirella, Pantha, and later on they run into Herbert West and Ash and the goddess Athena. All Dynamite characters. And, yeah, all of them are brought together to stop Kulan Gath from creating an apocalypse. What did I think of this? What I like about this is that for a 7-issue story, this thing reads really fast. I was actually done with it in about 2 days, and I was taking breaks in between. But yeah, this story is pretty fun. It kind of makes fun. Prophecy kind of makes fun of events. Event comics on a whole, because this was treated like an event, but they said, yeah, no tie-ins, no nothing, this is, self-contained, you can read this crossover as it is. So that's what I like, is that it's kind of like Dynamite's Infinity War. That's pretty much what it is. It's Dynamite's equivalent to Infinity War, but a lot of these characters, just appear. Like, there's no, backstory of, how they all came together. No, when Red Sonja shows up, Dracula's already with his daughter Ava, Pantha, and Vampirella. All of them are together. And even you're probably thinking, well, why is Dracula trying to stop the end of the world? And they bring this up when Sonja says, okay, Dracula, aren't you a creature of evil? Don't you want the world to burn? And he's like, no, stupid, I eat people. I'm one of the people who live on the planet. He basically he has the equivalent of what Star-Lord said to Rocket Raccoon. He's like, why do you want to save the universe? Because I'm one of the idiots who live on it! So that's pretty much Dracula's, answer for being for joining this team. He's like, yeah, I live here too! I don't want to fucking die! So, yeah. Dracula is essentially Dracula is actually kind of like the leader of the team, even though it's very Sonja-centric. And also, there's no, infighting among the team. There is some arguments back and forth, but really, the team is pretty much like, look, we gotta stop the world from ending, so let's not fight each other, and instead fight, Kulan Gath. because that's our enemy. Much like how in some of your Marvel and DC events, they would have the heroes like bicker and fight each other half the time more than fighting, the bad guy. No, this comic is pretty much like, no, we have our arguments, but at the end of the day, Gath is the enemy. So let's focus on that and not each other. Again, it kind of makes little subtle jabs at your typical Marvel DC events. What I also like in here is that, like I said, it's self-contained, so whatever happens in here pretty much doesn't really affect any of the comics that any of the comics in here. I mean, in the Dynamite continuity at the time. I also like how the story involving Sherlock Holmes meeting Alan Quatermain and the main villain being Dorian Gray. It's more like how the dagger, was found again. But really, my complaint is, while it is fun, it's a fun Sherlock Holmes story. The other hand, I'm like, I feel like this was just meant to fill pages. That's what it really felt like with the Sherlock Holmes part, where it was more like they wanted to introduce all these other characters, but couldn't find a way to bring them together. So they were just like, let's just have a side story of Sherlock Holmes teaming up with Alan Quatermain to stop Dorian Gray. Really, that whole story feels kind of superfluous. If I'm being honest, that story feels very superfluous, and we could have added a little more to the main story without I just feel like they were just there. Ron Mars just wanted to have Sherlock Holmes in this story, or corporate wanted Sherlock Holmes and those other characters in this story. But yeah, there's some great also, another little sidetrack is that I don't think Ron Mars really gets Ash. I don't really think he gets Ash, and because there are some lines in here where like, that's something not even Ash would say. He says groovy a little too much, honestly. And, there is a time for groovy and when not to say groovy, and he said it a little too much. But yeah, so that was a little problem with that. Everyone else in here is written pretty well. I did like how, again, this is very self-contained. Of Red Sonja, Dracula turns her into a vampire to save her life. So that plays out, but don't worry, that's not like, oh, Red Sonja is forever changed. No, don't worry, it's no problem with that. But yeah. I like also how they acknowledge that we had, you needed monsters to fight monsters. But it's not like, oh, we're monsters but we're good guys. No, we're just straight up monsters. We're the bad guy. We're the bad guys fighting the worst guys. Although, I know Vampirella and Athena and Pantha, they're all good guys, but still, you get what I'm saying. Anyway, so what did I think of this event? It's a neat little crossover. It's a fun little crossover with a fun idea. Some of the ideas didn't, although granted some of those ideas didn't really play out as I think they wanted it to, it was still pretty good of seeing all of these characters together in a massive event that, yeah, this would call for all these characters to come together. And, yeah, I wouldn't say this is one of my favorite event comics. I would say it's enjoyable. So if you're in the market for looking for something for fun and looking for fun stuff with Red Sonja and all these other characters, I'd say give it a look. I would definitely say this is worth checking out if you're a crossover guy like me and want to see all these characters interact and fight, Mayan gods and what have you. So there you go, guys. If you're new here, remember to Hulk smash that subscribe button and be a part of Earth's Mightiest Subscribers. I'm DPZ, and I'll see you next time right here in the YOUniverse.